Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for another episode of This Week in the ACC, the Week 8 edition, as we're going to be looking ahead to all of the ACC matchups coming up this weekend. We'll also talk about the non-conference matchups in terms of the non-conference opponents that Carolina has already played: South Carolina, App State, and Minnesota. We'll talk about those a little bit later on in the show. And we'll also talk a little bit later on about Underdog Fantasy, as they are sponsoring this podcast. Really excited to be partnered with them. Make sure you stay tuned. You get a nice little promo code over there you can use to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, so don't go away. But AJ, looking at the schedule, very similar to kind of last week's show, in there's not a ton of games we're going to be discussing in the ACC. There's only 5 total, one of those being North Carolina and Virginia. We've already talked about that at great lengths in the UNC football show that came out on Wednesday evening. Go check that one out after this one is done. But still, some interesting matchups in the league, and ones we'll be discussing right here. So I'm not even going to splice these up. We're just going to go. We'll just talk about all 4 right now because we don't need to splice up 2 and 2. Let's just go right on in on it, and we'll start with the first game of the weekend. That's Boston College at Georgia Tech, noon kickoff in Atlanta. Maybe some Carolina fans keeping an eye on that. Is obviously Carolina
should.
Yeah, it really should, as Carolina's headed down there next weekend to play Georgia Tech, which has been a tough team for them over the last couple of weeks. So I'm sure there'll be some Carolina fans keeping an eye on that one. Followed up by Pittsburgh at Wake Forest, 3:30 p.m. kickoff in Winston-Salem. Pittsburgh obviously coming off that upset win over Louisville. Wake Forest coming off a loss to Virginia Tech. So Wake Forest will be looking to get on track, and Pittsburgh will be looking to get a little bit more momentum going into the rest of the season. Virginia at North Carolina, 6:30 p.m. kickoff in Kenan Stadium. Already talked about that one, like we said. Number 16 Duke at 4th-ranked Florida State, AJ. 7:30 p.m. kickoff in Doak Campbell in Tallahassee. That's another interesting matchup. Duke having a really good season so far, obviously only loss against Notre Dame. And then Florida State, undefeated, top 5 ranking, looking like a really, really good program, and a team that maybe some similar aspirations to North Carolina, with trying to obviously compete for an ACC title and win an ACC championship, but potentially getting in that CFP conversation with that ranking that Florida State has right now. They are firmly in that conversation. So they'll be looking to keep their winning streak alive against Duke on Saturday night. And then the final game of the weekend, Clemson at Miami. Miami coming off a tough loss to North Carolina, as we all know. And Clemson, starting to maybe figure some things out. We'll see if they can go down to Miami and get another win. Maybe they'll potentially sneak back in to the rankings as well. But that'll be a good matchup to watch. That one's on ACC Network. So, AJ, the big games here, the Duke, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami. But, I think overall there's some interesting matchups in, I'd say, 3 of the 4 games. Carolina fans should be keeping at least some kind of eye on. Maybe not Pittsburgh at Wake Forest as much, but if Pittsburgh can keep winning, that win for the Tar Heels looks even better. So I guess you could make a case that all 4 of these games, maybe some Carolina fans should be keeping an eye on in some way, shape, or form.
What network is Duke ABC, Duke Florida State?
That is the ABC. Yep, primetime like last week for Carolina. Mm-hmm.
Duke and primetime on ABC.
It's weird, man. What a world we're living in. Even Carolina being on primetime top 10 is not something we're used to talking about. So,
okay, Pitt and Wake. Absolutely. Carolina doesn't play Wake. So so Carolina fans should want Pitt to win. And that would help Carolina. Carolina needs all the little nudging it can get. So if part of the nudging is Pitt wins and Minnesota wins and South Carolina wins, and as long as in ACC games, figure out what makes the most sense for Carolina and a route that way.
Even a Miami win, right? You'd be rooting for Miami a little bit coming off that. I mean,
they play
Clemson, maybe,
I honestly think you got to root for Clemson in that one, because for Carolina's perspective, if I can embrace a Carolina or give a Carolina perspective on this, because I think Carolina going to Death Valley, if the Tigers could get in the rankings and can climb into the CFP rankings,
that's a good point,
that a win there would carry more weight than a win over Miami at home. Even if Miami can beat Clemson, I don't think that does a whole lot the way people think about Miami.
That's a good point.
I think Clemson winning at Miami, people are looking for reasons to either shovel dirt on Clemson or to hoist them up. And if Clemson could win out between now and the time that Carolina goes to Death Valley and they get a win there, that win would be one of those. You got to have some eye openers. You can't just have a bunch of wins over okay teams or less than okay teams. You have to have some substance there. And that would give that Carolina more of an opportunity for substance. If you think about it, if Carolina is 10-0 when they go to Death Valley, or at least 9-0 when Duke comes in, you got Duke at home. I think Duke's respected. Go to Clemson, get a win there, especially if Clemson's like in the top 20 of the CFP. Go to State. People understand it's a rivalry on the road, and then they would likely have to play Florida State and Charlotte. So if those are your last 4 games, if you're thinking about national honors for individual players and you're thinking about getting into the CFP, that's best case scenario, which is why I keep telling my Carolina fan friends that you got to root for Florida State over Duke simply because you want to have an opportunity to play an unbeaten team in the ACC title game, who at that point could be number 1 in the country. So if the objective is to get to the CFP, you must root for all the scenarios that would work best for you. Yeah, it would take a little bit off Duke if Carolina beats them at home, but it doesn't matter. You need Clemson and FSU to be as highly regarded as possible if you're going to go in and beat them, which would then, I think, get Carolina into the CFP, even if there are 5 undefeated teams out there, which could end up happening.
Yeah, it definitely could. No, that's and I always say this on this show because I think a lot of people might be like, well, why are you guys doing an ACC football show? You covered Carolina, and with where Carolina's at, with the stated goal and mission that Carolina has, and with kind of the newfound attention they're getting and potential to do big things this year, it's important to look at the league and see what the matchups are and see how they could potentially benefit North Carolina or hurt North Carolina, vice versa. It just depends on what matchups are coming up. So yes, if anybody that Carolina's beaten, you kind of want them to win some games so those wins look better. And anybody that Carolina has to potentially face in the future, you want them to keep winning as well. I know some people look at it and say, well, if they keep winning, that means they're really good. And maybe that means it's a harder opponent for North Carolina, but you can't look at it like that. You got to look at it kind of the opposite way of, if Carolina can go play maybe a Florida State in the ACC championship game, and maybe they're, like you said, undefeated, maybe number 1, 2 team in the country, Carolina beats them, then, that win looks so much better, could potentially propel them into the CFP. So there's a lot of different scenarios that Carolina fans probably aren't used to having these type of conversations because we just haven't had to have them a lot in the past 20 plus years. But it speaks to the job that Mac's done and where this team finds itself at. So it's good that we can come on here and talk about how these ACC matchups could potentially mean a big time things for North Carolina in the future. I mean, that shows where the program's at right now. And I think it's something Carolina fans should be, excited about, to say the least. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's always different.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the Pitt-Wake game is interesting in that both teams made changes at quarterback. And it worked for Pitt, didn't work for Wake.
Yeah.
Wake's not very good. Even one of their wins, the win at Old Dominion, they had to come from behind and barely win that game. So I give Pitt an edge going in that one. They're both well-coached teams, but one is well-coached in finesse, one's well-coached in chewing glass, and I'm going to give the chewing glass group the edge here in the middle of the season because they're coming off a very much a feel-good situation that gave them new life. There's a lot of good parts there, and Wake has good parts too, but I just think that Pitt should be better than it's been, and the big problem was Djokovic. They think maybe they fixed that a little bit. We'll see. Clearly, Louisville wasn't completely dialed in, but I would give Pitt a little bit of an edge there, and that would help Carolina just a pinch. It's not the kind of thing that's going to hoist the Tar Heels into a bigger discussion, but it's better than having all of your opponents lose because the non-conference teams that Carolina played, they're all going to struggle getting wins this weekend.
Yeah.
So, and then the other one is Boston College and
Georgia Tech, which got to pay attention to that a little bit with them coming up next weekend.
Well, BC made the change at quarterback, and they're better, clearly better than they were earlier in the year. But Georgia Tech is kind of hot and cold, and they're coming off that win at Miami. That was, I wouldn't say it was a gift because they still had to go 74 yards to win the game, and they did it. But they're kind of up and down. So open date, if you're a Carolina fan, you'd rather Georgia Tech play really well this weekend.
I was going to say.
Because it would make them look better. They don't play BC, so it would help make Georgia Tech a little bit better because they got some bad losses. And maybe they get that good game out of their system, so they play like crap when Carolina goes there the next week. And the reason I say that is because they're just kind of up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd rather be down when you play them than up, because in up, Georgia Tech can beat Carolina.
Oh, yeah, especially in Atlanta. Yeah, especially in
down, Georgia Tech have obviously a much tougher chance of being the Tar Heels. In the other games, Duke at Florida State.
Yeah, Duke at Florida State, yep.
Duke has a shot if Riley Leonard can play. Duke has no shot if he doesn't play. Mm-hmm. Although I'm really looking forward to seeing what Duke's defense does. Mm-hmm. I think the defense there is legit. There's a lot of hats on the ball every time the ball carrier goes to the ground. It's a legitimate defense. It might be the most physical team Carolina plays all year. So it'll be very interesting to see what Duke does to Jordan Travis in that offense. I think they can be competitive there. And then the other one's Clemson at Miami. I'm going to go with Clemson in this one because Miami's just not a well-coached team.
I agree, man. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
They're not well coached.
No, dude.
They're a terribly coached team. They're terribly
emotional coaching staff. You saw it in
poor decisions last week. Mm-hmm. Poor decision. Not taking the yards on that holding penalty was just stupid. Yeah, and nothing reaches the height of stupidity than what Mario did the week before, and that's on him. Mm-hmm. That's not the kind of thing where you get another chance at that. That's something that should never ever occur.
No, I think it happened in Oregon too, didn't it? Didn't it happen when he was at Oregon? Yeah.
Remember Larry Fedora accidentally kicked off started both halves one time, and he didn't live that down for years. People still talk about it. So Miami or Clemson is going to go in there and they're going to play buttoned up football. Probably not be a high scoring game, but they're going to go in there and win about 23-13.
I agree. I think it's going to be something like that. I agree. I'm glad you said that because we saw glimpses last week and just being on the field, I just thought, what was it? Their offensive coordinator got a personal foul call for? Yeah, it was just something. It was just like, come on, guys. Like, I just thought it was a little too emotional.
By the way, I jokingly asked Gene Chizik before his presser on Monday. I said, someone asked him, "Do you ever get a penalty call?" And he was like, "No," but Gene's up in the box.
Yeah.
And I said, you'd have a long way to go to get on the field to get a flag. And he started laughing. So
that would be great. Imagine him walking down.
Yeah, there's a lot of discipline issues down there at Miami, but what else is new? There's been discipline issues down there for 40 years, just that they don't have the kind of talent and coaching they had before, and they used to win titles. Yeah. So they got a lot of issues, but I guess we'll talk about the non-conference ones here in a minute after you do the read. But I think the non-conference games are very, very interesting and very challenging for Carolina's foes.
I do too, and we'll get into that in a second. But before we do, like AJ mentioned, this show is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy, and we're really excited to be partnered with Underdog. And we've seen a lot of our fans and subscribers and listeners downloading the app, which is great. We've heard from them directly on that and using that promo code HEAL, which again we just love to see because you're gonna end up potentially getting your deposit doubled about to $100 as well. So why would you not use that promo code? If you haven't already checked them out, be sure to do so. Super easy to use. You just go on the app and go pick whether your favorite players have a higher or lower stat total than what is listed on there. For example, we'll use Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift because, that's the only people are talking about now when it comes to the NFL. If Travis Kelce's numbers, maybe, let's see, this weekend was set at 50 yards, so he's going to have 50 yards receiving. And maybe Taylor Swift's in the house, that. You're feeling like, he's got his girl watching from the stands. He's probably confident. Maybe I think that number is going to be a little bit higher. So you can choose that. Again, I think Kelce will go higher, so I'm going to go with that because of that. And that's essentially how the game works. Maybe vice versa, too. Maybe she's not in the stands one week, and you say, hey, he's going to be a little bit down this week, less than 50 yards. That's an example of how this game works. So you can do that with 2 to 5 different players. And if you go 5 for 5, you can 20x your money as well, which is fantastic. So sign up today using that promo code HEAL, HEEL. Get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Like I said, visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with that promo code HEAL to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. A lot of fantasy companies out there, but we're excited to be partnered with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-522-4700. Visit ncpgambling.org. Big thank you to Underdog Fantasy. Links in the description as well. Click on there. You'll go over and just make sure you use that promo code HEAL when you sign up.
Got a question for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's the second pod in a row we're talking about Taylor Swift here.
It's hard not to, man. She's talking.
So it really is hard not to. It's fascinating even for a boomer like me. But so when you played in high school, you played varsity soccer for 4 years. Did you have a girlfriend in high school?
I had a girlfriend for my last year of my senior year was when I was officially
Did she go to your games? Did she go to your games?
Yes.
Go to your games?
Yes.
Did you know she was there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Did it help you play better or worse? Because
I don't think I would say yeah. I think it gives you a little bit extra motivation. You know, you want to go out there and perform, you know what I mean? Especially I played center mid, so I was very involved in a lot of stuff.
Being too amped up.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever got too amped up, but I can definitely see where that can be a thing. Sometimes I wouldn't say you get too amped up. I think sometimes you're not focused on the right things, right? You're focused on your girl in the stands. You want to look good down there, play good, and you just kind of you're thinking about that more than you're just thinking about going out there and just doing your thing that you always do. So it can definitely play a factor, 100%.
Well, I had a girl I was going to take to homecoming, and I missed a block when we were playing Edison High School.
Oof.
And I looked up there and I was like, oh man, I missed a block. And I was just thinking about it too much. And I'll never forget this guy named Scott Snell, who was our teammate, said, dude, she doesn't know you missed a block.
That's true, though. She ain't have a clue, does she? That's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Taylor Swift, man. You guys think she knows that Travis Kelce didn't run the right route on one play? Yeah, absolutely. You're misguided on that. She don't know it. She don't know. And
before I get email from people, I'm not making a point about just because she's a girl, just that she didn't know. She was in the band.
Yeah, she you know what? She probably
played the flute in the band.
She probably could have cared less too, right?
she just wanted to make sure the neck roll looked good, right?
Yeah. That was.
I had a girlfriend come to a basketball game one time when I played basketball, and it was the worst game of my life. I missed a ton of shots and fouled out. And I told her, I said, "You're not allowed to come to my games anymore." Yeah.
You're not allowed to come. That's what I'm saying, AJ.
You're banned from the gym.
I'm telling you, man. Sometimes you're more concerned about how you look on the court when your girlfriend's watching than you are about how you actually play.
That's what I'm saying.
They probably don't care to begin with how you play. So, yeah, that's a good point. And again, you can do that with Underdog Fantasy. Get that Travis Kelce bet in. You maybe you think Taylor Swift's going to be there? You know she's going to be there. You think he might have a big game? That's a factor that might play into it. Believe in that.
Do you think when Travis Kelce drops a pass, one of his teammates goes up to him and says, "Don't worry, man, just shake it off"?
That's a heck of a reference right there, AJ. I'll tell you, Carly, my wife, would be incredibly impressed because she is one of the biggest Swifties of all time. You don't talk bad about Taylor Swift around her. So the fact of you throwing in that reference, I'm probably going to have to play this clip for her because I think she'll.
Jordan Kramer from ABC 11 is the biggest Taylor Swift fan on the planet.
Didn't know that. I was talking to her before the game last week for a while. I should have brought that up. Maybe this coming week.
I was giving her crap about it before practice one time, and I think she got upset.
Oh, she definitely did.
Actually, if you go back and listen to some player interviews back in August, one day we were asking different players if they liked Taylor Swift because she was there. We were giving her all kinds of hell about it. So we asked Power Eccles, and I start hitting the record button a little early sometimes. And someone asked Power if he likes Taylor Swift. He's like, "What? Like, how dare you ask me that question?" It was great. And then Kamari Morales was asked. Kamari's funny. He was asked as well. He's like, "Why would I like Taylor Swift?" So.
You don't. Hey, if you got a Taylor Swift fan out there, Swiftie, you don't talk bad about Taylor Swift.
If anybody watching right now knows, I'm sure a lot of you know who Jordan is. She's a sports reporter on ABC 11, local ABC 11. She's really, really good at what she does. Mm-hmm. And she's got a great attitude. So go ahead and tweet at her about Taylor. Tell her Taylor sucks.
See what happens. Sucks. See if she fires back because she will.
She's the resident media president of the Taylor Swift fan club for local media.
Yeah, there's one thing I've learned about being married is you don't talk bad about Taylor Swift around my wife because she will let you have it. So I've learned that pretty quickly. She's a master.
My daughter's into it now. When we were coming back from Wilmington or something, visiting my dad, and we had to do about an hour at Taylor Swift.
I can do a little T Swift now. I like some
oncoming traffic started looking more and more appealing.
Yeah, man. I'm about to say I've had a couple of those car rides with Carly where it's just like, all right, man, she's screaming a little bit too much for me. You got to turn this girl off. We got to listen to something else. But again, I do like some old school Taylor Swift. I used some of her old stuff when I was in high school. I'll play that every once in a while. So I got some love for Taylor Swift, but definitely not as much as my wife does and Jordan does as well, obviously, because they'll attack you if you talk bad about them. That's for sure. So well, let's get off Taylor Swift, AJ, because I'm sure they probably lost about 1,000 viewers right there. Not that we were getting that.
Guys are killing us right now. We're gonna get killed on Twitter.
They skipped through that. They skipped through the last 3 minutes so fast. But we'll get back on the topic right now. We're going to talk about Carolina.
Although, since we like to ask questions, if you played sports at any level and you had a girlfriend in a game, did it help you or hurt you? I had the worst basketball game of my life with a girlfriend there, but usually I didn't think about it. Like in football, I usually don't think about it. I did miss a block that one time, and Scott Snell really did say that to me.
Yeah, that's a great line because it's true.
But go ahead on Twitter, let us know. Did it help you or hurt you having a girlfriend in the stands?
Heck, maybe we got some people in high school right now playing some sports, watching this that have got a girlfriend right now. Let us know. Maybe people living in that moment right now. We'd be interested to see because I can vouch for it. I used to definitely think about it for a little bit, but it's more pregame. And then once you get into the game, you're like,
you want them seeing you in pregame. Especially in football.
You want to look good. You want to
look like a gladiator out there.
Yeah, maybe you're changing from the warm-up shirt to the jersey on the track before the game. You're taking a little extra longer to put that shirt back on. I know how it works, AJ. I've been there before. Don't you guys worry?
I really did. I really wasn't hoping for that moment.
Don't you guys worry, man. I've been there before. Y'all know. People watching can relate to that line. I know we've all done that, especially if you play soccer because you always got to change into the jersey right before the game. So.
I did not need that visual.
Y'all can thank me for that one later, guys. But we'll keep it moving on to the 3 non-conference matchups this week. We're going to talk about Minnesota at Iowa. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. Like you said off camera, probably be like a 7-6 game right there. South Carolina,
11 Minnesota, Iowa, 11 Minnesota 2.
Yeah, it's gonna be something like that, man. I do not expect that one.
I'm so glad I don't cover Iowa football.
I'd take the under in that one. I don't know what the line is, but I'd probably go ahead and take the under on that one.
I heard something on the radio the other day. Someone was joking about Iowa, saying that Iowa could they're going to win the West over there. What if they win out?
It could happen.
Could they go to the CFP and not average enough points so the coach has to fire his son as offensive coordinator? And they're in the CFP?
That'd be amazing, man.
Part of me that roots for chaos wants that to happen.
Yeah, hey, got to get through Minnesota first, AJ. Tough matchup for the Hawkeyes. Got to get through Minnesota.
Minnesota's
first,
offense, they're not going to score.
No, they've been
they'll recover a fumble at the 9, and they'll have 4th and goal at the 7 and kick a field goal.
Yeah, that's kind of been Minnesota's theme this year. It's the quarterback struggles, which we always talk about. It hadn't been great. South Carolina at 21st ranked Missouri. I think that's another tough matchup. South Carolina's got to get a win on the board, coming off a home loss to Florida. Shane Beamer in the press conferences all over Twitter because he's not taking accountability. According to South Carolina fans, they're all over the place right now.
Broke his foot.
Yeah, broke his foot. I mean, what's going on at South Carolina? I'm a little surprised they haven't been a little bit better. But from what we saw in the opening game, I guess we shouldn't be because they didn't look very good in that game.
I give them a shot in this game because Missouri doesn't have a very good defense.
Yeah, agreed. There's a chance.
And Missouri just kind of strikes me as a team that's just, ripe to have a total head scratcher. And I think South Carolina has enough that it could give them that head scratcher.
Agreed.
So,
South Carolina.
I'm going to give the Gamecocks a shot in that one.
Game. I like that. I don't know what the line is. I'll have to find that, but I wouldn't be opposed to putting a bet on South Carolina there. I think that could potentially win you some good money. App at ODU, last game to wrap it up. App got to get some wins on the board. Not really having the season I think some people thought they'd have. Traveling up to that Virginia Beach area to play ODU, that's always going to be a tough game. So you want App State to win that one, but if they don't, there's going to be a lot of people calling for. I'm blanking on his name. What's his name? What's the head coach's name, AJ?
Sean Clark.
Sean Clark. I was thinking Shane Clark, and I'm like, that is not right. Thinking Shane Beamer, mixing those two.
A lot of their fans would probably like to have a different name as head coach.
They would, yeah, they would. I know that for a fact based on some of the stuff I see on Twitter. But again, if you can get a win from Minnesota at Iowa, the South Carolina win at Missouri, and an App win at ODU, that'd be a pretty good week for Carolina and help boost those wins a little bit. So
App's the most important team.
Yeah, with the overtime game, yeah,
because people that are looking for chinks in the armor I mean, if App's sitting there at 3-6 down the road, and Carolina's got an overtime win against them, that's a bad look. Carolina fans need to root hard for App. App needs to get wins to make that not look so head scratching, because that's the head scratcher. They won it, but you don't want to have to explain that in November, how you barely beat a team that's near the bottom of the Sun Belt.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a great look.
But I'll tell you what, I'm not a betting guy anymore. But if I were, I would pick. I don't even know what the line is. Doesn't matter. I'd pick ODU straight up in that game.
I think I probably would too. I think Apps just. I don't have a lot of confidence in them. They could go up there and win for sure. With I think they're a good enough team to do that. Obviously.
Yeah, but ODU solid. ODU is they got a lot of talent there, and it's a nice transfer destination. It's a pretty cool place to go to school too.
Yeah. It's good.
So nice, there's a lot of appealing. I'll tell you what, Virginia's got some really good G5 football.
They do.
Power 5 football is abysmal. G5 football, Liberty's a good program.
Undefeated.
JMU's fantastic and a great environment, a great stadium. Liberty's got great facilities. ODU's got much improved facility. They put a lot of money into it. That's a really good G5 state, because there's a lot of talent in that state too.
It is. No, it definitely is. We'll see what App can do up there, because again, I think that's going to be a tough one. But 3 intriguing non-conference matchups, and if you're a Carolina fan, definitely put your Minnesota, South Carolina, and App State hats on. I know the South Carolina and App State hats are never getting put on from Carolina fans, but maybe put a little Minnesota hat on. That never hurt anybody. So we'll see what happens this weekend. But a lot of intriguing matchups in the league, intriguing non-conference matchups. And again, the message from us is always you want Carolina's, the teams that they have to face or that they've already played, you want them to keep winning, because that'll just boost Carolina's chances going in to the rest of the season and maybe reaching a potential CFP spot. A lot of football left to be played first, though, and they got to keep winning to even have a chance to do that. So we'll see what happens. We'll be here every week to talk a little ACC football, as we've been doing for the last few weeks. And looking forward to seeing how this ACC season shakes out. But AJ, we'll go ahead and get out of here, man. Make sure you go check out the UNC football show as well. We can get a little more in-depth preview on UNC and Virginia, as we obviously didn't talk about that one in this show. So go check that one out on our YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a like on that one. Drop a like on this video as well. See how many likes we can run up on this show. And again, big thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this one. Use that promo code HEAL. Links in the description below. Again, we really appreciate them partnering with us on these podcasts. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another episode of This Week in the ACC. Appreciate y'all watching as always, and see you on the next one. Thanks.